Welcome to a new Harry's Garage video, and today's car is this, the Porsche 911 Turbo S. This is the 992 latest variant of 911 in Turbo S form, and an amazing bit of kit. 650 metric horsepower this car, 205 miles an hour and crazy accelerations, but in this turbo typically is this livable package. So I've been really itching to have a go in this, especially when I was slightly disappointed with that Carrera 2S I had a few months ago. I think it was back in February. And then for added interest on this video, I've brought this along. A really lovely example of the first Porsche turbo, the 930 Turbo. This one is the 3-litre version from 1975. So we'll have a little look at that as well. But anyway, this car. Where do you begin with the tech that's on board? 992 is sort of is grown, is obviously the biggest variant of 911 we've had. This wider tracked car, slipperier, usable, all sorts of tech they had to introduce on this. Particulate filters on the exhaust led it to have this wide arch feel. The Turbo S version is wider again, so another 10mm at the back. And just a wonderful stance this car's got. Obviously 4-wheel drive as well, and it's got rear steer on this car, ceramic brakes, etc. But all this tech comes at a price. And over a standard Carrera 2S, this car is a £63,000 premium. This car lists at £156,000 before options. Why does it cost so much? Well, let's go and have a closer look. Might as well start at the front, and here where you've got that central eye sitting under that famous number plate of the UK press cars, 911 Hull, that round thing, that's the radar cruise, which is an option on this car. And then these vents at the side, these rads, these look fixed vents here, but they're not. These are motorized. These actually close, open and close depending on demand. But not only that, there is hiding underneath there a spoiler, a chin spoiler that comes down. You put it into Sports Plus and that extends. So it's very clever, because normally it's all smooth like this. And you come around here, well, it's still got the 20-inch front wheel and 21 rear wheels on this car, but now CCM brakes, the carbon ceramic brakes, are standard. Together with, at the front, these monster 10-piston calipers. That is standard fit on this turbo, and it sort of needs them because of the performance it has, and they are ace, as we'll find out later. 255 35 at the front, up from 245 on the standard Carrera 2S. So not much of an increase, and at the back they're 315 35s instead of 305s. So yeah, it's surprising that it's not that much fatter rubber, it's just one section higher. Then the famous intake at the side, scooping air down into various rads and things, and the intake for the engine. And then this side skirt, just a little extension, just a little flare there, just on that. I do wish it still had that famous shark fin though. That is one of my favourite features on that 930 Turbo, that side profile, and that is only stone protection, but that black fin just on that rear arch gives it such a distinctive look. If I had one of these, I'd be very tempted to have one made up for this. Do that scooping body colour. I don't like this. This just looks cheap how it's all done. I know it's effective, it's needed, but I just think there should have been a better way of doing it. Moving around the back. Also, I think this improves over a regular 992. It loses that very strange little brake light that normally sits there. I hear a fan going. This is the trouble with these sort of cars. They're so high tech. They still have fans going, even though this has been parked up for a while. On here, 911 Turbo S. That's an option to have it in black, of course. A few £100. The brake light is actually built into that spoiler, and that spoiler goes up and down as well. Again, another little thing. This has sports exhaust. I haven't seen any Porsche press cars without sports exhaust. You tell with the single outlet sort of quad pipes at the back, you get these twin pipes. But this plastic surround, you think there must have been a better way of doing it, but maybe not. And this is just scooping air out of that wheel arch, those deep cuts into the car there. But, oh, and the other option, strange option on this one, it has a carbon roof, a lightweight carbon roof, so obviously no sunroof or anything like that. Okay, now let's just step back in time to the 930 Turbo we see here. I bought this book on the 911 in 1976. It had just come out, as had the 911 Turbo. It was, I can't tell you the effect this car had on the performance market. There was the 911, we known it, and it had gone around in 2.7 RS, those sort of cars, 3 litre, and it was always this normally aspirated, slightly quirky car with the air-cooled engine, different sound. And then they came out with this Businessman Express version. They'd used turbo in racing, but the thought of applying it to a road car was, what are you doing? And to the turbo, a Porsche turbo was off the scale. And it looked so good. It was this wide stance on it. We hadn't seen a wide-bodied 911 before. The other thing about it, it was sort of luxurious. This, after the RSs and things, this had lovely leather interior. The price of it was way higher than anything else, but it was a luxury car. Looking at it now, it's amazing how basic it actually is. I weighed this car and it came out at what I think are a remarkable figure, 1,148 kilos, just over a ton. Such lightweight car in its day, but it didn't actually have air conditioning on it. You can see the black and white number plates. It's just a very elegant car, but in its day, it really changed things. It had also the brakes off the race car as well, so ultimate racing, and with this statement, these black centered wheels with a crescent. So it's the 3 litre version in here. It hasn't got the intercooler, and quite quickly it got the 3.3 litre engine and an intercooler this meant it had to grow it. But again, a very simple car. If I just lift this up, the turbo script on the back, and it sort of looks conventional here. It just looks, you wouldn't really guess this was the turbo. You need to know that it was. Such a lovely thing. And this is a wonderful example to revisit this car. And then that script of on that back, just that simple turbo script that basically hasn't changed to this day. This is 1975, this is 45 years old, this car. Now bringing turbo right up to date, and we have this Turbo S. All changed. Those 45 years of development have really shown. The weight has gone up though now. I put this on the scales and it's now 1,597 kilos. Now it's 450 kilos heavier, but it's also got well over twice the power. 260 horsepower for that, 650 here. Performance, completely different league. 5.2 to 60 for this, the 930. 2.5, I've seen figures on this, to 60 miles an hour now, the new turbo. 0 to 200 kilometers an hour, even bigger gap. This used to do that in 19.2 seconds. This car can do it in 8.4 seconds. Complete change, but it's got 4-wheel drive, it's got twin turbos, intercoolers, everything. Let's have a little look up the front. I love this script 911 Turbo S as you walk in. That opens the front, and that opens the little engine hatch for what it's worth. Big hole again, down there, 68 litres. You actually get a slightly bigger fuel tank with the turbo over a regular C2S, but a real usable space that. I've always been a fan of the 911 because of that. It's funny how smoothed off it all is, the 992. It's all to do to get that 200 mile an hour plus top speed. And at the rear, absolutely nothing to see here at all. 2 little fans, oil and water there, and a 3.8 Turbo S. That is a slight lie, because this engine is actually 3,745 cc. That was also one of the surprises with this car. The regular Carrera 2S, or the regular Carrera, has a 3 litre engine. This is 3.7, so a significantly bigger engine for the turbo version. Anyway, as ever, what these cars are all about are the driving. So let's take it outside now. Yeah, I have to say I'm a bit of a fan of the 992 interior. I do like this generation from this. Just feels a modern, very well thought out interior. Very clean, this black either side, this funny little gear change, controlling the 8-speed dual clutch transmission. You start it with a thing that looks like the light switch, but it is actually yeah, the key. Hello 911 Hull, it says on there. Change driver, and I'll keep 911 Hull as a good chap. And yeah, I particularly like the steering wheel on this example. This is an option to have it with the suede finish. Sport GT wheel, I think it's £555, but it has a lovely feel on it, and I love the sort of small airbag wheel on it and just how it's laid out. You'd expect it from Porsche, but it's worth noting again just how good it is. The clarity of that rear centre rev counter, ringed in red on this example, an option again, £245. Sport chrono pack on this car, standard on the Turbo S, ringed in red, that's another option. It's got some ones I wouldn't tick, like night vision. I'm not quite sure if that's necessary. It's nice, but not that nice. Exclusive wheels, those centre-lock wheels, sports exhaust, lowered suspension, POSM suspension, lowered by 10mm. Anyway, let's get going. Oh, also I love the fact it's not leather interior. It has this houndtooth type of finish on the seats and the trim. Having lived with it, super comfy, just lovely really. A well-spec car, and in this spec this car is £172,000, so although a fair climb up from £156,000 standard, I reckon I could spec one of these to my taste at about £165,000, somewhere around there. Move that stubby little lever, put it, and it goes into drive. I'm in normal at the moment, so no heroics from the exhaust or anything like that, and we'll get going. So I'm going to leave home and just get onto better roads, so you'll join me later. As you get going on this car, just first few miles, it is obviously sport suspension, but it does actually feel more rounded than that 992 Carrera 2S I had in, which I'm really surprised at. But initially, just first few miles you're doing it, hang on a minute, this shouldn't be as fine as this. You've sort of read all about how wild this car is, but it's, yeah, it's got a very nice setup in suspension. As I say, I'm in normal. That usability is already sort of saying, yeah, this is an everyday, potential everyday supercar. Even though the tyres are 315 section at the rear rather than 305 on the C2S, I've come down this bit of road because this is the road where I took 992 down and I couldn't get over how noisy it was. Now this isn't a quiet car, but when I measured it down exactly this stretch of tarmac where the Carrera 2S was measuring, bordering on 80, flashing into 80 decibels, this thing is sitting around the 76, 77 decibels, and a 2 decibel reduction is big. And I think, you know, part of that weight is 150 kilos heavier than the Carrera 2S, this car. There is a little bit more sound deadening, whatever. It is that livability, this monster performance. We've got to make this car usable every day. So that was an initial surprise, having lived with this car for a few days. This is particularly good at just mooching around. That's what a Porsche Turbo always used to be able to do. And the dual clutch gearbox on this is actually bespoke to this car. Because of that higher torque, it needed re-engineering. 800 Newton meter peak torque in this car. That's beyond what the regular dual clutch gearbox can do, so it's got beefed up. And actually, while they're about it, they tweaked the ratios as well. So first gear is actually lower than it was before to just make it absolutely electric off the line, we'll see in a moment. And then it actually lengthens the top gear as well, so presumably slightly lower revs when you're storming down the autobahn. I'd quite like to try it in this car, doing that. Not a lot of choice in this part of the world. I've got the screen here just displaying what setup I'm on. Again, I change it by the controller on the steering wheel, and I can just put it into sport, and that tells me that it's done, tweaked the exhaust system, that's come on, so the valves open in the exhaust system, and it's had a little go at the engine as well, so I think it's a more instantaneous throttle response. We'll try Sport Plus, etc. when we're out on some better roads. But it also will flash up wet. Yesterday was absolutely chucking it down with rain. You set off in normal. I believe it's got sensors inside the wheel arches, picks up that it's wet, pops up. You really ought to have it set in wet, and you get an alert. Pop it into wet. You really don't notice much difference, but it must tighten up again the stability control and slightly calm the throttle down. But I guess it's worth doing. I mean, this car is pretty damn clever, so I will go along with it. But yeah, very good at going slowly. I know I've mentioned it before, but I do think a lot of hyper car type cars with this sort of performance, they never really have tested going slowly. Aventador, I'm thinking of you. I think Porsche expect you to use it every day as well, because I'm always impressed by their service intervals. 20,000 mile service intervals, or 2 years. That's impressive, isn't it? A 3-year unlimited mileage guarantee as well. But that just shows you what the manufacturer thinks about the product. That's how it's tested. Yeah, you use this car, do miles on it, won't have to won't have to visit your dealer very often. Right, a little bit of exercise, let's go past the dealer, and off we go. And that's it. That was sort of half throttle, little prod, and we were already illegal. It is ridiculously fast, this car, and even in normal, it's one of those you keep looking at the speedo. It's like riding a super bike where it doesn't compute the numbers that are staring back at you at the speedo. So no, I can't. I've only just turned the throttle on, but can't be doing 80. You are. So yeah, as you'd expect with 650 horsepower. And the other thing is, it is this biggest jump in turbo history. There's been a huge number of 911 turbos over the years, from that early 930 on. And this is the biggest jump in one generation. So it's jumped from the 580 and now 650, so 70 or 69 horsepower jump in one go. The other thing about that horsepower jump is it's at higher revs. The engine revs, peak power is at 750, so the red line's at 7,000 RPM. Previous turbos didn't really have that sudden rush at the top end. It was all about that mid-range torque. Not this one. Now this car has probably the easiest accessible launch control of any car I know. First of all, you pop it into Sport Plus, like that. Spoilers coming down. And it's a very quiet area here, so I'm literally just going to do it away from this junction. So I've got foot on the brake, foot on the accelerator, and here we go. And there we go. That was just over 60 miles an hour in launch control. It's berserk in launch. In 2.5 seconds to 60. We're talking about Bugatti Veyron. That was the benchmark that set. And here we are in a 911 Turbo S that can do it repeatedly. I'm staggered at how quick it is away from the mark, and yet I've dialed it all the way back to normal, and all that performance we've just experienced, you would hardly know who had done it. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant, the way it deploys its performance. There is no heroics, there's no crazy sound coming, there's no scrabbling, doesn't have to get the wheels spinning, just grips, goes. Mighty impressive. And I think part of the reason of why it's so impressive is because there's a new guy in charge, that was put in charge of this program to develop this 992 Turbo. And his name is Frank Weiser, and I first met him because he was the guy in charge of the Porsche 918 program. And I went out to Italy in Nardo to try it out, and I came away a little bit unimpressed. It was such a hard program for the poor engineers to get hold of. First time they've done this real performance hybrid sort of drivetrain, and that first drive in a sort of, well, it's an absolute mule we were driving. I thought, crikey, this is going to be hard work, and you could tell he was sweating. I then drove the production version of the 918. Couldn't believe how good it was. Absolute magician engineer. He's been put in charge of motorsport at Porsche, and he's done this car. And wow, can you tell? Right, I put it back into sport now. I like sport, just livens things up, but it doesn't toughen the dampers up. Very livable program just to run around in sport around here. Just there's information coming through the wheel. It feels like Project 8 to me. It's like it's got the tough engine mounts. I can feel a sort of vibration through the wheel that I don't remember feeling in Porsche turbos before. It has that edge of GT3-ness about it that has not been present in previous generations. I'm enjoying this car way more than I expected to. So you do get some pops and bangs on the exhaust. I just changed down. Oh, I'll shut up. I'll do that again. Just hear it then in a second. There. Just adds a little bit of drama. Those quick changes, right? It's a tricky right left through here. Really keen to see how it feels through here. Turning quite quick. I mean, God, you can lean on the front axle in a way that you could never do in previous 911s, and full power on the way out. God. It is an extraordinary machine the way it does that. But it gives more pleasure than you expect, because you feel part of it. You feel this machine, this tense, fit, amazing, and you've got the information coming through the wheel. It doesn't do it just by horsepower. There's a finesse here that has been lacking in 911 turbos in the past. Sports Plus, I can see the rear spoiler come up at the back, and it deploys that front air dam as well, so you've got slightly reduced clearance at the front. And also the dampers go to a stiffer setting. But again, it's still usable on the road. It's that front end bite. Oh, the wallop out of corners. God dear, what a machine this is. Right, I'm going to just calm it down. Yeah, and sort of summarise this car. So, dislikes. I'm struggling on the dislikes. I suppose it's those little bits of trim. It's a high price point, this car, and I just think there's a little bit too much plastic on the outside. So that bit around the rear exhaust, that funny air scoop at the side, they just look clumsily done. When you've got a wonderful detailing on this, like this interior, and the finest detail, the knurling on top of the switches, those headlights, those precision headlights, those four daylight glow, and then that central LED light, and then we can't be bothered to do that vent, we'll just put that bit of plastic there. That'll be right. It's that bit which I find a little odd with it on the exterior. And I suppose I have to comment on the noise on the inside. Yes, it is a bit quieter, but it's a bit noisier on road noise than I would like, but it is quieter in my experience than the standard C2S. But then you get to the likes. Oh my goodness. Well, you have to do first, number one, like the level of performance. Yes, I said you don't need any more performance than the Creo 2S until you experience this and the way it deploys its performance. It's in a sort of stealth mode, the way it does it, and it's deeply appealing, and you come back for more, and you don't feel as though you have to use it all the time. So you don't have to do any switches to access it. You've got to do that overtake, go past. There is no hurry, so you won't lose traction, it's with you, and if you do get into trouble, well then the braking system on this car is world class. Those new ceramic brakes, those 10-pot calipers, what I find again so impressive, super progressive, low speed, don't grab, but then you go deep into a corner, you want full braking, oh my goodness, you think the seatbelt's going to snap, and it's tireless. They'll do it again and again. So it's the level performance, both its acceleration and its deceleration, its accessibility and all weathers. My God, it's impressive. And yet, when you want to go slowly and you've got a bit of town work to do, or you've got to park it or whatever, it's so good at that as well. It's a 911. That's what they're good at. So yeah, wrapping it all up, I think what I feel towards this car, this is the car the 992 was meant to be all along. I've been confused by the standard Carrera 2S because it was turbo, but didn't say turbo on the can, and they have to unplay it. They've done that because that's what the regulations required. This car, Turbo S, has a history, and they've nailed it, absolutely nailed it to what a Turbo S should be. This usable hypercar that can go head to head with some of the world's fastest cars, but do it with 20,000 mile service intervals and everyday usability. That's what makes this car so special, and why it is easily my favourite 992 variation of all. In fact, it strikes me that they could actually just drop the standard Carrera 2S, introduce a turbo with a lower level performance, have this, have Targa versions of it, etc., and then have the GT cars as a separate line for that normally aspirated, rasping flat six that we all love the 911 for. Be a mighty combination. What a range of cars that would be. So as you can tell, I have enjoyed this car immensely. I hope you've enjoyed this video as well. Wherever you have, keep watching, keep subscribing, because there'll be more videos coming on very soon. Henry, what car is this?
A Porsche.
Is it? Yeah. Do you want me to make it a noisy Porsche or make it quiet?
Noisy.
Noisy. Okay. It's quite fast.
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go. That's bad, isn't it? Oh.
Let's try again.
What do you think again? You should do that again. Okay. So I need your help.
Ready?
Yeah.
Ready?
Yeah.
Go!
Go!